Welcome to She's All Business. I'm Sophia, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today, Hillary Lebouitz-Schaefer. She's going to talk to us about her life and how she became a founder and owner of Lébo Aesthetics Spa in York and Hanover, Pennsylvania. As you can see, we are in a different location today. We're at Lébo's Hanover location. So Hillary, thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
Welcome to She's All Business.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm really curious, out of all of the services that you offer, what's your favorite that you do for a client?
Oh my gosh, that's really hard to even think about. I mean, honestly, a lot of what we do changes people's lives because everybody thinks, oh, it's just all cosmetic, but it's not. You know, a lot of times what's on the outside really affects us mentally for a lot of different reasons. Maybe it's a scar, maybe it's hair that's unwanted, anything like that. So I don't really have a favorite procedure. What makes it favorite is it's rewarding when you've changed somebody for the way they feel about themselves. So it's nice to be able to make a difference. And we do that with a lot of our services.
So I know you're extremely busy and you give a lot of people their dream spa days, but you don't get, I feel like, a lot of time to have your own dream spa day.
No.
So what would be at the top of your list for yourself?
So, I do all more of the medical aesthetic side.
Okay.
So chemical peels, laser hair removal, microneedling, things that aren't quite dream spa services.
Got it.
They're more corrective services. The spa end of things with our office, I mean, I would love a day of just having a massage and a facial and, getting my nails done and just kind of a pampering day, because that's something I think we all need, mentally and physically. It just makes you feel so good. Yeah. So I would love a day of just spa would be wonderful.
That would be really great.
Yes, that would be amazing.
So is there a skincare product that you swear by?
Kind of depends on what I'm treating. I treat acne. So I have a couple that I, definitely are my go-to with acne. I love Zeo. We carry Zeo line. We have a Lébo product line. And then we have a couple other little products here and there just to kind of fill any gaps that we might have. Zeo is definitely one of the more aggressive lines. So we can definitely change the skin, whether it be a wrinkle or whether it be acne, a little more aggressively with some of the products from there. Our Lébo line has some of the same products and ingredients, but it's a little slower of a delivery system. So it tends to be a little more mild. So if I had to tell anyone for aging what they need to use to prevent aging down the road, the number one anti-aging cream is sunscreen. That would be number one.
I use sunscreen every day.
100%.
I've switched it up a few times, the brand. I started with Neutrogena. Now I'm like a Sephora brand that I use, but it's like the last step of my skincare every day.
Right.
It's my favorite thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I use The Ordinary a lot. That's like kind of my go-to product. I use like micellar water and CeraVe as well.
Sure.
The Ordinary is probably my number one that I use. So I really want to start from the beginning with you and talk about your journey up until starting Lébo. So starting with your childhood, your family influences, maybe even the interests you had as a child leading up to college and esthetician school.
Okay. So I never thought I'd be doing this.
Yeah.
As a child, my dad is a dermatologist. So from the time I was about 15, I worked for him in his office and pulling charts, answering phones, things like that. When I went to school, and when I went to college, I went for elementary education. So I never thought I would be getting into the dermatology skincare world. My junior year of college is when I realized I didn't want to necessarily teach. And then I started kind of looking into other pathways and saw how aesthetics is, at that time, that was 28 years ago, estheticians were kind of a whole new thing. And getting into aesthetics, especially with a dermatologist, was new, and chemical peels and having that asset in a dermatology office was something that my dad, being a dermatologist, was really interested in. So I thought, well, I'll go to aesthetic school, see if I like it, and then kind of go from there. And I ended up loving it. And then I think I've always just had a passion for like the medical side of taking care of your skin, because there really are a lot of medical conditions that affect you cosmetically. It's disrupting and it makes people really self-conscious, and to know that there's a way to help them and change their lives is huge. I never was interested in the pampering part of it. That's what I didn't find as interesting. I think the beauty part comes hand in hand. You know, when you start working on somebody that has acne scars or pigmentation or just acne in general, and you start making their skin clear, they look and feel more beautiful. So it is all part of it. And, you know, I've always loved makeup and things like that. But would I want to be a makeup artist? No, that's not my thing. I really like the more medical end of it.
You're a medical esthetician. Would you recommend to somebody looking to be a medical esthetician to go to college or just going straight into esthetician school?
There's pros and cons to each of it. I always say even though I do not use any of my teaching degree as far as being a teacher, I use everything I gained in college on a daily basis. I had a psych minor. I had a learning disabilities cognitive. I think psych, you use that all the time.
Totally.
I think teaching, I teach a lot of what I do when I have new hires. I'm the one that usually does most of the teaching as far as the medical aesthetics. So I think any education you go for helps you. I think one of the problems would be if you went right out of high school into becoming an esthetician and then want to get into medical aesthetics. I think sometimes it doesn't take long to become an esthetician. It's only like, well, in the state of Pennsylvania, it's very few hours. It's under like 400 hours, which is crazy. So you're young and your maturity, you can burn somebody, you can scar somebody with the services that we do. So you have to have a level of knowledge and maturity to be able to understand the ramifications of things that you can do to be ready to do this. So sometimes that 4 years of college and experience helps you grow. And then going into aesthetics, it's kind of a perfect timing. But then some people are more mature when they graduate high school and they might be ready sooner. So that kind of depends on the person.
Totally. I can totally see that. And also there are like trade like high schools like Votech, you know,
100%.
like that would maybe be something where, oh yeah, I can see you going right from high school to esthetician school.
Right. Or the other thing too, if let's say they go right into esthetician school and graduate young, totally fine. And then they get into the spa world, do that for a couple of years and understand just how to handle a patient or a client and, you know, the different skincare needs on that end. And then if they decide they want to get into medical, they have some background to start to kind of roll over into it. So I think experience and just kind of however you can gain it is important before you get into some of the medical stuff.
During your time in esthetician school, were you able to maybe shadow anybody other than, I know you helped with your dad, but if not, what do you think really set you apart?
Well, there was nothing else to compare it with at the time.
That's true.
You know, this was all new. So, which was a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing was you didn't really have mentors or I couldn't shadow anybody to know if I would like this career. There was nobody to even like to do that with. So when I graduated from aesthetic school, there was a training that we could go to be certified as a medical esthetician in Killeen, Texas.
Wow.
So my business partner and I went to the middle of nowhere at this Killeen, Texas. And there was a program through Central Texas College that this woman taught. And that actually was really helpful. And she really was like the forefront of getting knowledge about medical aesthetics and what to do and not to do. And, you know, kind of like a starting point for all of us. And then through the years, it's become so much more studied and there's so many more resources out there. So it's a lot different now than it was then.
Heather Whitmer is your business partner.
Yeah.
Did you meet her in school?
So I met her after I went through school, and I was I might have just been finishing up school when I met her. And she worked for the York newspaper company at the time and had a really good job, made really good money, and was really curious about what I was doing. And at one point she was like, I think I'd like to like try it and do it. And I was like, what if this is not successful? Like we could do this and it could fail. Or what if it's not successful for two and it only is enough for like one person? And she was like, I'm willing to take the risk. And so once I got done school, then she went through her schooling, and then the two of us did the program in Central Texas College together. And then we kind of divided up because we realized it would be better to have specialties. Mm-hmm. So I went through laser hair removal training, and she went through, it's called Intense Pulse Light, which is like a device that's used to treat like broken capillaries and pigment. And then she also did permanent makeup. Yeah. So that way then people would come to each one of us for different things, and we weren't really overlapping each other as much. But we literally, when we started, like I would answer the phone when she was in with a patient and vice versa. Like it was just the two of us. Yeah. And then we hired a receptionist, and then eventually a little bookkeeper, and then just kind of kept growing. I know.
What was kind of that process, right? When you guys you chose your specialties, you started Lébo. What was the process of starting it from the ground up?
It was definitely a lot of ups and downs. Neither one of us ever ran a business in our life. My dad being our medical director and part owner involved with us, he didn't really know anything on our end. I mean, he could supervise as far as if there was a complication with something or oversee some of the procedures we were doing, but the business end of it, he never really did.
Yeah.
Doctors don't, they everything's submitted to insurance. It's such a different type of business. Mm-hmm. So we really had to learn everything as we went along, and you make a lot of mistakes in the beginning. You don't understand costing, pricing. We had no one to even get ideas from to say, like, you have to look at it this way and you should price it this way. We kind of just went off of what the rep might have said, but that might not have been accurate. Or you run a special, and then in the end you realize you lost money on your special. Yeah. And you don't know that until you really run things through. And then after like 3 years, you're like, oh my gosh, we need to either make some changes or, our business has a lot of overhead. Like lasers they can be anywhere from like $150,000 to $300,000.
That's insane.
It's insane.
That's a lot of money.
And then, prices keep going up, and you keep getting equipment, and, what you might have charged 25 years ago, you obviously have to increase as you go through because you get better equipment, you get new things,
and services change as well.
Absolutely. And you want to be on top of your education and everything. So 100%. It's all part of it.
So you started that out in York. You added Hanover to Lébo.
Yeah.
So out of your entire time, you've been doing this around 26 years. What was probably one of your biggest challenges that you faced with Lébo?
I feel like the beauty end of things came easy, because that's when you get into this industry, that's your passion. You're doing this because of being interested in that field and wanting to help people and wanting to make a difference. So to me, that part was easy. I think the hardest part was the business end of it, and the growing pains, and you open a new location, and your other location is compensating for that until this one is situated. And it's just things that, I think to be a good business owner, you've got to fail at some things to learn from, and then, you make better decisions from there. And
totally,
I think it's cyclical. I think you make mistakes the whole way through, and you learn from all of them.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have had a business degree. That would have helped.
Probably a little bit.
A lot.
Well, I think that's also just a good lesson for everybody, not even business owners, like interns or just working at a regular boutique or something like that, making mistakes, just learning from it.
100%.
Don't make the same mistake again. And that's like,
it's okay to make the mistake.
Totally.
And I think a lot of us you're so proud when you first start something.
Yeah.
And when you might have failed at something, you think, I can't do this. Like, you've got to get through that and find a way to dig yourself out, put your big girl pants on and face it head on. And, you might have to go back to bare bones to get out of whatever it is, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And you should really try to learn from the mistakes and ask people for help. Let somebody as an outsider maybe look at things so that you can get some of their feedback, because you sometimes get really stuck in your business.
Oh yeah, it's your baby.
It's your baby, and you can't always see out of it. And so it's nice to have somebody else look at it and go, oh, well, if you did this, that would help.
When did you get the feeling that you and Lébo have made it?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if I still feel like
Oh my gosh, you're one of the most successful. I mean, one of the first ones, most successful one, I feel like. You have 2 different locations. They're both busy.
I think I probably don't ever sit back and think about it. You know what I think really happens is you get a lot more competition. Like, and I'm sure this is in any area, but we feel it more. Like New York would have had it years ago, but we are hitting it more over these past, I would say, like 5 to 7 years. There's places opening up everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's constantly keeping you on your toes. You don't ever want to feel like you're at the top, because that could be taken away from you just like that. So you have to keep on working and setting yourself apart, and competition is one of the best things.
I was going to say, being competitive. I mean, I feel like there's new services people are offering.
Absolutely.
You have to do that as well.
Right. And you can each have, like, I think it's healthy, and I think it's, it should keep everybody on your toes. And the ones that are going to work the hardest and really stick with it and keep trying to find their forte, they're going to be the ones that continue to stay successful.
You're a medical esthetician. What are the different types of positions you can have at a skincare center like Lébo?
So you could be a regular esthetician and do spa services. We have a cosmetologist that does nails in our York office. We have a massage therapist. You could be a nurse injector, and every state's different with that. So some states don't allow nurses to inject. In Pennsylvania, you can. We have nurse practitioners that are injectors. We have a physician that's an injector, and then a medical esthetician. So that's pretty much the different fields in a facility like ours that you could have a specialty in.
So that's really great to know that there is more of a medical side of things. You're not like a doctor, or a dermatologist like your dad was, but you have this medical side, but then you can also have more of the glamour, beauty type of side.
Exactly.
And you get a mix of both if you're interested in both.
And I think too, like every med spa is different. So because the dermatologist is physically, like he's over on the other side of here today, he's on our property all the time, whether it be in York or Hanover. And he has a nurse practitioner that's with him too. It's the same way. So we get a lot more dermatological things sometimes that overlap. So maybe they saw them for something and we need to do the finishing part of it. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they come in for a consultation with us and we know it's more medical. We'll send them over to more of the dermatology side. So in our world, we get more of that kind of thing. And I think too, because of the experience and doing this for so long, we just see a more medical variety of patients than maybe another med spa would have.
When you work with these younger girls, interns, high school interns, when they may make a mistake, how would you advise them to improve?
I mean, I would never, it's a learning experience.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just steering them in the right direction. Mm-hmm. I did have one esthetician that she came right out of school and she was young. So what we did with her was kind of hired her as like an intern, and she worked really closely with me for like a year to a year and a half until she was ready to see patients on her own. And, I think I always say you're not a good esthetician or medical esthetician or even doctor or nurse until you've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Because that's how you learn and you find out what you did wrong. And, everybody makes mistakes.
Of course.
I mean, and we all are better people because we've learned from our mistakes. So.
Totally. Definitely.
Yeah.
So a lot of my listeners are younger listeners, maybe high school, college, maybe even after college, like early 20s. Why would you recommend the beauty and skincare industry?
It's always growing. There's so much you can do with it. Try not to get so pigeonholed in one little thing. Like be open to, being a specialist in all kinds of areas. Like you could work with burn victims and help do more wound care, and you can work with patients that are going through chemo and specialize in like cancer skincare products that are, healthy that they can use while they're going through chemo. Like there's so many things that you can specialize in. So I think if you have a passion for skincare and beauty and, that whole type of industry, There are so many things you can do.
Yeah. And this is just like one little realm of it.
One little niche.
Before we get to the end of the episode, is there any favorite memory that you have of starting, working, doing anything with Lébo?
I think, really, I'm so fortunate because my best friend, is my business partner. And being able to have her along this crazy ride is probably the best part of the whole thing. And then also being able to do it with my dad. He at this point is only, he's just our medical director. Heather and I are, sole owners. So we've, made for all these years, it took us so long to get to that point. And, but to have his expertise and his partnership over the years, it's just so fortunate to have each other.
And definitely working with a friend, sometimes it doesn't go
100%.
And
my whole family said, don't do this.
My family owns a pizza shop.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't work at the pizza shop. Don't mix family, don't mix friends with business. So it's really great that it worked out for you.
And
because you never know.
Definitely times where it was hard. And
I'm sure.
We've had times where we would full out blowouts. But that's with any business partner, you're going to have that. It's just like a true testimony that you can grow from it. And I think admitting that you make mistakes and that you're not always right. And that, it's okay if you fail at times, and that you have the support of the other person so that nobody's ever blaming each other. Like, I think that's what makes it all work.
Yeah. And definitely separating the business and friendship
100%.
side. It's two different things.
1,000%.
Yeah. So the last thing I like to ask on my podcast, I do it for every episode. I really would like there to be an actionable item that the listeners can take advantage of. So not just the advice that you give, but I'd love if there is maybe an apprenticeship, an internship, work opportunity, something that you're hiring for that you'd be able to offer to listeners.
Sometimes we will do, like, the high school internships are usually the easiest ones that we can set up, because if we have a need for some help, it works out well because they can see if it's something that they would be interested in, and they can do a little bit of work, but it's not anything crazy. What they'll do is they'll shadow. They can only do our side. There's a lot of rules with HIPAA and everything for the dermatology side. So for our side, they can shadow a provider for one day, and then usually the next day we have them like maybe get charts ready or something like that. So that way it's like a working but yet gaining information and knowledge type of program. Then they can decide, do they like this thing? As far as other internships, it just depends on if we have a little bit of like a void in one area. The problem with a lot of the higher level internships is you almost need like a vacant area to get into, and our longevity here is pretty high.
Yeah.
So we don't always have that need. But if you can always check, you never know. If we do, we'll take you on.
Is there an email that they can reach out to?
It's H Lebouitz, which is HLEBOUITZ @LeboSkincare.com.
Well, thank you so much, Hillary. I really appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy. Thank you so much for fitting me in.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.